Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching the first episode of Moon Knight. Now, despite me being a big Marvel fan, I didn't know particularly that much about Moon Knight before I saw the first episode on Disney Plus. I basically only knew that he had to do with Egyptian gods in some way, and that he's basically described as Marvel's Batman only with dissociative identity disorder. So let's get to the story, shall we? The story revolves around a mild mannered museum gift shop employee named Stephen Grant, who ends up having many strange things happen to him when he blacks out and ends up in a completely different area when he goes to sleep. Basically, he thinks he can handle this by strapping himself to a bed, which would set off extreme red flags for any woman who enters his apartment. But, as it turns out, he actually has a different personality in his head. The personality of a deadly mercenary by the name of Mark Spector. On top of that, he is in possession of some kind of scarab that is desired by the main villain of this story, Arthur Harrow, played by Ethan Hawke. So, Oscar Isaac as Stephen Grant has to survive a bunch of deadly situations in this episode, while also trying to figure out who Mark Spector is, why he keeps switching between the two personalities, and how this is connected with the Egyptian gods that Arthur Harrow seems to also to know a lot about, particularly a Egyptian goddess named Amet. But that's all that we know about the story so far. Throughout this first 45 or so minute episode, we actually are given plenty of mysteries but very few answers. But considering it's a 6-episode miniseries where I'm sure these answers will be drip fed to us bit by bit as the story goes on, I actually don't see that as a bad thing. Especially considering that it keeps the intrigue up and the interest up for the viewer. And it certainly helps that Oscar Isaac does really, really well as a mild-mannered doofus that Stephen Grant is obviously being portrayed as. I'm not sure how he was in the comics, but he was pretty entertaining here, even if he does feel like he belongs in a completely different kind of series than a superhero action one. But considering this one also jacks up the scary bits quite a bit, and making it similar to something like The Mummy but with better effects, it actually does work out for his performance for now. But I'm saying mainly as Stephen Grant, considering we only see a little bit of him as Mark Spector. And it's going to take a few episodes for me to judge whether he's good as Spector, or at least as good as Grant. As for Ethan Hawke's character Arthur, I think he's actually pretty interesting as a villain. He seems like a cult leader type, and I'm guessing he's one of those villains who's trying to help the world in his own way, but he's going about it the wrong way. Ethan Hawke does a really good job becoming a character who's very mysterious and creepy, but also one that you can tell knows more than he's letting on. It's going to be interesting to see how he fits into things. And I also like the guy who did the voice in Oscar Isaac's head. He ends up insulting Grant a whole bunch of times. Basically, he knows that the guy he's working with is just some moron that he probably doesn't want to be around. And it makes for a very fun dynamic when he's antagonizing Grant and Grant has to just do what he says or he'll die. It actually does make me feel pretty sorry for Grant in that sense, especially since him constantly blacking out means he misses out on dates. He ends up having things happen to him that he can't explain, like his goldfish having 2 fins instead of 1. And it just makes for a life that seems difficult to grapple with. And considering that I've dealt with dissociative identity disorder portrayals in something like Killer 7, I do like how it works as a story to build up tension and a mystery. So I'm interested in seeing what the answers are, which is why I'm going to continue going through this series. But that's all I have to say about the first episode for now. It's promising, though I'm wondering how all these mysteries are going to be answered. That'll be all for now.